What if I told you there's a lost world, swallowed by the sea thousands of years ago, that still haunts our collective imagination, a place so advanced, so mythical, that its very name Atlantis echoes through history like a whispered secret? One day it was there, a thriving civilization of unparalleled wisdom and power, the next, gone, vanished beneath the waves without a trace, or at least that's what the ancient texts claim. But here's the thing, what if Atlantis wasn't just a legend? What if it was real? For centuries, explorers, scholars, and treasure hunters have been obsessed with uncovering the truth. From the dusty scrolls of ancient Greece to the high-tech sonar scans of modern oceanographers, the hunt for Atlantis has never stopped. Some say it was a victim of natural disaster, a catastrophic earthquake or tsunami that wiped it off the map. Others believe it was punishment from the gods, a cautionary tale about human arrogance, but the most intriguing question of all isn't just why it disappeared, it's where. Could its ruins still be hidden somewhere beneath the ocean, waiting to be found, or is the answer buried in plain sight, disguised as another famous site from history? That's exactly what we're diving into today. This isn't just another retelling of the myth. We're peeling back the layers of time, examining the clues left behind, and exploring the most compelling theories about Atlantis's possible locations. From the sunken stretches of the Mediterranean to the volcanic islands of the Atlantic, we'll follow the trail of breadcrumbs, some left by Plato himself, and ask, could any of these places truly be the remnants of that fabled lost continent? Buckle up, because this journey is about to take us to the edges of history, science, and even a little bit of magic. The mystery of Atlantis is far from over, and you're about to become part of the search. The story of Atlantis begins not with a historian, not with a poet, but with a philosopher, Plato. In his dialogues Timaeus and Critias, written around 360 BCE, he paints the most detailed picture we have of this lost civilization. And here's what makes it fascinating. Plato presents Atlantis not as a myth but as a real place, a cautionary tale told to him by his ancestor, the Athenian statesman Solon, who supposedly heard it from Egyptian priests. According to these dialogues, Atlantis was an island empire beyond the Pillars of Hercules, what we now call the Strait of Gibraltar, a naval superpower, wealthy beyond measure, with temples plated in gold and silver, advanced engineering, and even a mysterious metal called orichalcum that glittered like fire. But Plato's account isn't just about grandeur, it's about downfall. He describes Atlantis as a society corrupted by greed and ambition, its people losing favor with the gods. And then, in a single catastrophic day and night, the island was swallowed by the sea, earthquakes, floods vanished without a trace. Now, here's where things get controversial. Plato insists this story is true, but he was also a philosopher who used allegories to make moral points. Was Atlantis real history, or just a lesson about hubris? Scholars have debated this for centuries. Some argue he was recording an oral tradition about real disasters, like the eruption of Thura, which wiped out the Minoan civilization. Others think he invented Atlantis as a literary device, a utopia turned tragedy to warn against imperial overreach. What's undeniable is how precise his details are. He gives exact dimensions for Atlantis's capital, concentric rings of water and land, connected by bridges and tunnels. He even names its kings and their conquests. But here's the catch, no other ancient writer mentions Atlantis before Plato, not Herodotus, not Homer, so why would such a powerful civilization leave no other records? That mystery is what keeps the hunt alive. Whether fact or fable, Plato's Atlantis has become a mirror, reflecting our obsession with lost worlds, our fear of collapse, and the tantalizing idea that somewhere beneath the waves or buried in myth, the truth is still waiting to surface. One of the most persistent theories about Atlantis's location points straight to the Mediterranean's doorstep, the Strait of Gibraltar. Known to the ancients as the Pillars of Hercules, this narrow passage between Spain and Morocco wasn't just a geographic landmark, it was a boundary between the known world and the unknown. Plato's description places Atlantis beyond these pillars, leading many to scour nearby regions for evidence of a lost civilization swallowed by the sea. And there's compelling geology to back this up. Off the coasts of Spain and Morocco, sonar scans have revealed submerged structures that defy natural explanation, rectangular formations near the island of Spartel Bank, now under nearly 100 meters of water. 11,000 years ago, during the last ice age, sea levels were dramatically lower. Spartel Bank could have been a large island, flourishing with human activity before rising waters consumed it, timing that aligns eerily with Plato's account of Atlantis sinking around 9000 BC. Even more intriguing, ancient maps like those attributed to the Phoenicians depict landmasses beyond Gibraltar that no longer exist. Could these be fragmented memories of Atlantis? But skeptics aren't convinced. They argue that Plato's beyond the pillars might not mean just outside Gibraltar, but much farther afield, perhaps even in the Atlantic Ocean. Others point out that the geology of the strait is unstable. Landslides and tsunamis are common, making it plausible that settlements were wiped out, but were they advanced enough to match Plato's description? And why haven't we found conclusive ruins, like the gold-plated temples or orichalcum artifacts he described? Yet the Pillars of Hercules theory endures because it bridges myth and reality. It's grounded in tangible clues: submerged land, ancient cartography, and seismic history, while leaving room for mystery. Maybe Atlantis wasn't a single city, but a network of coastal settlements, erased by rising seas over millennia. Or maybe, as some researchers suggest, Plato merged real disasters from different eras into one epic parable. Either way, the waters near Gibraltar hold secrets we've only begun to uncover, and every sunken stone keeps the legend and the hunt alive. The Mediterranean offers one of the most tantalizing possibilities for Atlantis's real-world origins, and it all centers around a single, cataclysmic event: the eruption of Thura. Modern-day Santorini sits atop what was once a thriving volcanic island, part of the sophisticated Minoan civilization that dominated the Aegean over 3,500 years ago. Then, around 1600 BCE, the volcano exploded with such force that it rivaled Krakatoa, sending shockwaves across the ancient world. Tsunamis surged outward, swallowing coastal cities, while ash blotted out the sun for months. The Minoans, master traders and artisans, never fully recovered. Sound familiar? Plato's description of Atlantis's destruction, earthquakes, floods, a civilization disappearing overnight, aligns chillingly with what we now know about Thura's eruption. Even the timeline fits, if we assume Plato's, 9,000 years before Solon, was a mistranslation or exaggeration. Archaeologists digging on Crete and nearby islands have uncovered Minoan settlements buried under volcanic debris, their frescoes frozen in time. The most striking parallel: the Minoans built multi-story palaces with advanced plumbing, vibrant art, and intricate layouts, echoes of Plato's concentric rings of Atlantis's capital. At Akrotiri, a Minoan city preserved in ash, researchers found streets paved with red and white stone, mirroring the very materials Plato claimed adorned Atlantis's temples. But here's where the theory gets contested. The Minoans were a Bronze Age society, not the godlike superpower Plato described. Their collapse, while dramatic, wasn't instantaneous. Trade networks limped along for decades after Thura. And Crete lies inside the Pillars of Hercules, contradicting Plato's geographic clue. Still, proponents argue that Egyptian priests, passing the story down to Solon, might have conflated the Minoans' fate with older legends of drowned lands. After all, the Thura eruption sent tsunami waves as far as Egypt's Nile Delta, leaving an indelible mark on collective memory. Another Mediterranean contender. The island of Sardinia, off Italy's coast, its Nuragic culture flourished around the same time as the Minoans. building thousands of stone towers and thriving until a series of catastrophic floods submerged parts of the island. Underwater megaliths near Sardinia's coast, dubbed the Italian Atlantis, suggest a once expansive civilization now lost to the sea. Could Plato have blended multiple Mediterranean disasters into one grand metaphor, whether Atlantis was a place, a parable, or a patchwork of half-remembered tragedies? The Mediterranean's depths hold fragments of truth, waiting for the right explorer to piece them together. Far out in the Atlantic Ocean, where the sea stretches endlessly and the waves crash against rugged volcanic peaks, lies another promising contender in the search for Atlantis, the Azores. This remote archipelago, roughly halfway between Europe and North America, sits atop the mid-Atlantic ridge, a massive underwater mountain range where tectonic plates pull apart. And it's here, some researchers argue, that the remnants of Plato's lost civilization might be hiding beneath the waves. Sonar scans of the Azores seabed have revealed startling formations, massive, geometric structures that seem too precise to be natural. One particular site, discovered near the island of São Miguel, shows what appears to be a stepped pyramid, its edges sharp and angular despite being submerged under hundreds of meters of water. Could this be the ruins of an Atlantean temple? Proponents of the Azores theory point to Plato's description of Atlantis as a mountainous island with abundant freshwater, features that match the Azores' volcanic origins and lush landscapes. Even more intriguing, sediment cores from the region suggest parts of these islands were once above water thousands of years earlier than recorded history, aligning with Plato's timeline of a catastrophic submersion around 9,000 BCE. But the mid-Atlantic ridge holds its own mysteries. This underwater mountain chain, stretching over 16,000 kilometers, is one of the most geologically active places on Earth. In the 1970s, oceanographers mapping the ridge near the Azores discovered what they called the Atlantis Massif, a towering undersea mountain with a flat top, resembling a sunken plateau. Some speculate this could be the remnants of a larger landmass, now fractured and submerged. Underwater expeditions have retrieved strange rock samples from the area, some showing signs of human alteration, though mainstream science remains skeptical. Yet the biggest challenge to this theory, Plato's account describes Atlantis as a naval power that attacked Athens, an impossibility if it was located in the middle of the Atlantic, thousands of kilometers from Greece. Critics argue that Bronze Age civilizations lacked the technology for transoceanic warfare, and no evidence of such a sophisticated Atlantic society has been definitively found. Still, believers counter that ancient seafaring might have been more advanced than we think, pointing to disputed artifacts like the so-called Brazilian Atlantis, stone structures off Brazil's coast that some claim are man-made. Modern explorers haven't given up. Private research teams armed with deep-sea submersibles and advanced sonar continue to scour the Azores and the mid-Atlantic ridge, hoping to uncover proof that could rewrite history. Whether these underwater formations are natural oddities or the echoes of a lost world, one thing's clear: the Atlantic Ocean keeps its secrets well, and until we dive deeper, the legend of Atlantis will keep pulling us back into its depths. The warm turquoise waters of the Caribbean might seem like an unlikely place to search for Atlantis until you hear about Bimini Road. Just off the coast of North Bimini Island in the Bahamas, this mysterious underwater formation has sparked fierce debate since its discovery in 1968. Stretching nearly half a kilometer, the structure consists of massive limestone blocks arranged in a near-perfect straight line, some appearing to form right angles. To the untrained eye, it looks eerily man-made, like a submerged highway or the ruins of an ancient harbor. Could this be a piece of Atlantis, preserved under centuries of sand and seawater? The connection to Plato's lost continent gained traction thanks to fringe theorists and the prophecies of Edgar Cayce, the so-called sleeping prophet. In the early 20th century, Cayce claimed Atlantis would rise again near Bimini, predicting the discovery of a temple or road in the area. When divers stumbled upon the formation decades later, it seemed to fulfill his cryptic vision. Some researchers argue the blocks are too precisely aligned to be natural, pointing to tool marks and what they interpret as pillar bases. Others go further, linking Bimini Road to other underwater anomalies in the Caribbean, like the so-called Cuban underwater city, detected by sonar in 2001, a series of symmetrical structures over 100 meters deep, though no conclusive evidence of human origins has been found. But mainstream science pushes back hard. Geologists explain Bimini Road as a textbook example of bicroc, a natural formation where fractured limestone settles into linear patterns due to tidal action and erosion. Carbon dating places the rocks at around 2,000 to 4,000 years old, far too young to align with Plato's timeline, and while the blocks appear fitted together, close examination reveals no mortar, carving, or other signs of human craftsmanship. Skeptics dismiss the case connection as coincidence, noting he also made vague predictions about shifts in the Earth's poles and lost records in Egypt, and claims that remain unverified. Yet the allure persists. Independent explorers continue to study the site, using advanced imaging technology to search for hidden chambers or artifacts beneath the sand. Some propose Bimini Road was part of a larger coastal complex, now submerged by rising sea levels after the last ice age. Others suggest it might belong to a different lost civilization, perhaps the Maya or an unknown seafaring culture, rather than Atlantis itself. What's undeniable is how these sunken stones captivate our imagination, blurring the line between geological curiosity and archaeological enigma. Whether natural or man-made, Bimini Road stands as a reminder that the ocean keeps its secrets close, and that sometimes the most compelling mysteries are the ones we can't quite prove. What if the greatest secret of Atlantis wasn't hidden beneath the waves but buried under miles of ice? That's the radical theory that places the lost continent not in the Mediterranean or the Atlantic, but at the very bottom of our world, Antarctica. At first glance, it sounds impossible. Today, Antarctica is a frozen wasteland, inhospitable and remote. But what if it wasn't always that way? Proponents of this idea, like author Graham Hancock, argue that thousands of years ago, before the last ice age reshaped the planet, Antarctica could have been a temperate paradise home to an advanced civilization that mapped the stars, built monumental cities, and then vanished when the glaciers came. The most tantalizing piece of evidence, the Piri Reis map, drawn in 1513 by an Ottoman admiral, this world map shows coastlines with uncanny accuracy, including what appears to be the northern edge of Antarctica, rendered without ice. Even more baffling, the map's creator claimed it was based on much older sources, some dating back to the time of Alexander the Great. If true, it suggests ancient civilizations knew about Antarctica's true geography long before modern explorers discovered it in 1820. But here's the twist. Mainstream science insists Antarctica has been frozen for at least 15 million years, far too long for any human civilization to have existed there. So how could ancient map makers have depicted its ice-free shores? Hancock and others propose an even wilder idea, that Earth's crust underwent a catastrophic shift around 12,000 years ago, a phenomenon called crustal displacement. According to this theory, Antarctica wasn't always at the South Pole. It drifted there suddenly, freezing overnight and wiping out any trace of its former inhabitants. Of course, geologists dismiss this outright. They point to plate tectonics, which move continents at a glacial pace literally. The entire landmass of Antarctica couldn't have shifted thousands of miles in a human lifetime without leaving undeniable evidence in the fossil record or Earth's magnetic field. And while the Piri Reis map is astonishingly precise for its time, skeptics argue it might depict the hypothetical Terra Australis, a speculative southern continent drawn on many Renaissance maps, not actual Antarctica. Even the ice-free coastline could simply be artistic license or a distorted version of South America, Yet the mystery deepens. Core samples from Antarctica have revealed pollen and fossilized plants, proof that the continent was once much warmer. And satellite scans have detected strange geometric anomalies under the ice formations some claim could be the ruins of massive structures. Mainstream archaeologists counter that these are natural rock formations, distorted by millennia of glacial movement. But the biggest hurdle for the Antarctica theory: lack of direct evidence. No artifacts, no inscriptions, no undeniable proof of human activity has ever been found beneath the ice. Without it, the idea remains firmly in the realm of speculation, a captivating what if that challenges our understanding of history, but falls short of rewriting it. Still, the allure is undeniable. The thought of a lost civilization, frozen in time at the ends of the earth, taps into something primal in us: the fear of being forgotten, the thrill of discovery, and the nagging suspicion that our history books might be missing a few pages. Whether Antarctica hides the ruins of Atlantis or simply the echoes of an older, colder world, one thing's certain: the ice isn't giving up its secrets easily. And until it does, the debate will rage on between those who see a puzzle worth solving and those who insist it was never a puzzle at all. Now picture this: a massive, bullseye-shaped formation in the middle of the Sahara Desert, so large it's visible from space. This is the Richat structure, nicknamed the Eye of the Sahara, a geologic wonder in Mauritania that sparked one of the most explosive modern theories about Atlantis. At first glance, it's just a series of concentric rings carved into the desert rock, but look closer, and the parallels to Plato's description become uncanny. He wrote of Atlantis's capital as a city built in perfect circles, alternating rings of water and land, connected by bridges and canals. The Richat structure mirrors this almost exactly, with its natural ridges and valleys forming unmistakable rings stretching over 50 kilometers wide. Could this be the remnants of that fabled metropolis, now weathered by time and swallowed by sand instead of sea? Geologists have long argued the Richat is purely natural, a symmetrical uplift eroded over millions of years. But recent studies reveal anomalies that challenge this view. Core samples show signs of sudden, catastrophic flooding in the region around 1100 years ago, eerily close to Plato's timeline for Atlantis's demise. Even more compelling, ancient riverbeds, now dry, snake through the area, suggesting it was once a lush, water-rich landscape. Satellite imagery reveals what appear to be submerged rectangular foundations near the center, and scattered across the dunes are artifacts, stone tools, pottery shards, and even remnants of a culture advanced enough to mine copper nearby. None of this proves Atlantis existed here, but it paints a picture of a sophisticated society that thrived before vanishing into the desert. The theory gained traction when researcher Jimmy Bright highlighted the Richat's alignment with Plato's geographic clues. Atlantis, he noted, was said to lie beyond the Pillars of Hercules, but still within reach of Athens, a distance that fits if you consider the Sahara's past climate. During the last ice age, this wasn't a desert but a green savanna, crisscrossed by rivers and lakes. Could beyond the Pillars have meant south of Gibraltar, not west? Even the name Atlantis might hold a clue. In the local Berber language, Atlas means mountain, and the Richat sits at the edge of the Atlas Mountains. Yet skeptics pounce on the gaps. Plato described Atlantis as an island, not a desert ruin. The Richat's rings, while striking, lack the clear-cut channels and harbors he detailed. And where's the gold-plated temples, the orichalcum? Supporters counter that time and erosion could have scattered or buried such treasures. Others propose a middle ground, that the Richat inspired the Atlantis legend, blending real events with myth. After all, cultures worldwide have flood stories. Perhaps this was North Africa's version, passed down and reshaped over millennia. What's undeniable is how the Richat ignites curiosity. Whether it's Atlantis or not, it forces us to rethink how much of our ancient past remains hidden not under oceans, but beneath shifting sands. Every expedition there uncovers something new, from fossilized sea creatures proving this was once underwater to mysterious stone circles that predate Egypt's pyramids. The desert guards its secrets fiercely, but with each discovery, the line between legend and history blurs just a little more. Tucked away in the sun-baked plains of southern Spain lies a forgotten kingdom that might hold the key to the Atlantis mystery, Tartessos. This enigmatic civilization, flourishing around 3,000 years ago, was so wealthy, so advanced, that ancient Greek historians compared it to the legends of the Phoenician silver trade. But here's where it gets intriguing. Tartessos vanished abruptly, leaving behind only fragments of its existence, a disappearance so sudden that scholars have long wondered if it inspired Plato's tale of a drowned empire. Recent excavations in Doñana National Park, a marshy delta near the mouth of the Guadalquivir River, have unearthed something extraordinary. Using ground-penetrating radar, archaeologists detected the outlines of massive circular structures buried beneath layers of sediment, patterns eerily reminiscent of Plato's concentric ringed city. Even more compelling, core samples reveal that this area was once a vast inland sea, connected to the Atlantic before a catastrophic tsunami or earthquake reshaped the coastline. Could this have been the heart of Tartessos, and could its destruction have morphed into the Atlantis legend over centuries of retelling? Supporters of this theory point to ancient texts that describe Tartessos as a land of unimaginable riches, with temples adorned in precious metals and a people skilled in metallurgy. Sound familiar? Plato's Atlantis, too, was said to possess a mysterious metal, orichalcum, and its temples glittered with gold, but skeptics argue that Tartessos thrived too late in history, centuries after Plato's proposed timeline for Atlantis, and was more of a trading hub than a naval superpower. Yet the debate takes a fascinating turn when you consider the broader region. Just north of Doñana, the ruins of Cancho Rono reveal a Tartessian complex with ritual pools and altars, suggesting a culture deeply tied to water worship. Could flooding have been part of their mythology, later exaggerated into a cataclysmic drowning? Even Herodotus wrote of Tartessians trading with distant lands, hinting at maritime prowess that might align with Plato's militaristic Atlanteans. The biggest challenge: Tartessos left no deciphered writing, only cryptic symbols on scattered artifacts. Without concrete records, we're left piecing together clues from pottery, burial sites, and the accounts of outsiders. But perhaps that's the allure. Like Atlantis, Tartessos lingers at the edge of history, a puzzle begging to be solved. Whether it's the true inspiration for Plato's Lost Continent, or simply another civilization lost to time, one thing's certain: beneath the wetlands of southern Spain, secrets are still waiting to surface. Beneath the choppy surface of the Black Sea lies a geological secret that could rewrite the history of Atlantis. Around 500 BCE, this region, now a vast inland sea, underwent a transformation so violent, so sudden, it echoes Plato's account of a civilization swallowed by water. Known as the Black Sea Deluge hypothesis, this theory suggests the Mediterranean once burst through the Bosporus Strait in a cataclysmic flood, unleashing 200 times the force of Niagara Falls. Within months, the freshwater lake below became a salty sea, its shoreline expanding outward by nearly a mile every day. For any thriving settlements along its banks, there would have been no warning, just an unrelenting tide, rising until homes, temples, and entire villages disappeared beneath the waves. What makes this event so compelling in the search for Atlantis? First, the timeline. Plato placed Atlantis's demise around 9,000 years before Solon, roughly 11,600 years ago. That's far older than the Black Sea flood, but here's the twist: scholars argue his numbers might have been distorted over centuries of retelling. If Egyptian priests mixed up generations or misrecorded dates, could Plato's 9,000 years actually point to the Black Sea disaster? Even more striking are the parallels in his description. He wrote of earthquakes and floods, of a once accessible land becoming impassable due to muddy shoals, a detail matching sediment cores from the Black Sea floor, which show a thick layer of silt deposited by the deluge. But the connections don't stop there. The Black Sea flood wasn't just a local tragedy, it was a cultural turning point. Survivors would have fled inland, carrying stories of the disaster to Mesopotamia, Anatolia, and beyond. This could explain why flood myths appear in nearly every ancient tradition, from Noah's Ark to the Epic of Gilgamesh. Even more tantalizing, underwater archaeology along the Black Sea coast has revealed submerged structures off Bulgaria and Turkey, including stone walls and tools dating back to the flood era. While none match Atlantis's legendary grandeur, they prove advanced settlements did vanish beneath these waters. Critics, of course, raise objections. The Black Sea flood was gradual by human standards, taking months to years, not the single day and night Plato described, and the region lacks evidence of a naval superpower, no golden temples or orichalcum here. Yet proponents counter that myths evolve, compressing time and amplifying details. Perhaps Atlantis began as a cluster of coastal towns, their destruction magnified into legend over millennia. Or maybe the flood was the final blow to a pre-existing civilization, its name lost but its memory preserved in Plato's allegory. The Black Sea's depths still guard their secrets. Expeditions continue to uncover ancient shorelines, sunken hearths, and even a shipwreck preserved so perfectly its coiled rope remains intact after 7,000 years. Each discovery chips away at the boundary between geology and myth, leaving us to wonder, if Atlantis was born from a real disaster, could its truth lie not in the Atlantic's abyss, but in the dark, silent waters of this inland sea? Whether fact or folklore, the Black Sea's flood reminds us that every legend often starts with a grain of truth, and sometimes that grain is buried beneath layers of mud, memory, and time. Now let's head north, where the icy winds of the North Sea whip over waves that hide one of Europe's most fascinating lost worlds. Beneath these turbulent waters lies Doggerland, a vast prehistoric landscape that once connected Britain to mainland Europe. Stretching from the Netherlands to the British Isles, this fertile plain was home to thriving hunter-gatherer communities 12,000 years ago, until rising seas swallowed it whole. But could this submerged landmass, now known as the Celtic Shelf, hold the key to the Atlantis mystery? The parallels are startling. Plato described Atlantis as a low-lying, agriculturally rich land, exactly what Doggerland would have been during the Mesolithic era. Core samples reveal forests, rivers, and even hills beneath the seabed, a landscape teeming with wildlife and human activity. Archaeologists dredging up artifacts, flint tools, carved bone, and even the remains of dwellings, paint a picture of a sophisticated society adapted to their environment. But here's where the theory takes a provocative turn. Some researchers argue Doggerland civilization may have been more advanced than we assume. Recent sonar scans uncovered a submerged structure dubbed Doggerland Stonehenge, a circular arrangement of massive boulders that suggests ritual or astronomical knowledge. Could this have been the heart of a culture complex enough to inspire Plato's tale? Timing adds another eerie layer. Doggerland didn't vanish overnight, it was a slow death by drowning as glaciers melted and seas rose. But around 6200 BCE, a catastrophic event accelerated its demise. The Storegga Slide, an underwater landslide off Norway, triggered a tsunami that would have devastated Doggerland's remaining islands. Survivors fleeing inland could have carried stories of the disaster across Europe, passing them down through generations until they reached Egyptian priests, and eventually, Plato's ears. Yet the geographic mismatch is hard to ignore. Plato placed Atlantis beyond the Pillars of Hercules, while Doggerland lies far to the north. Proponents counter that ancient seafarers might have conflated distant lands, or that Pillars referred to something else entirely, perhaps the Straits of Denmark or even glacial formations lost to time. Others suggest Doggerland wasn't Atlantis itself, but proof that rising seas erased multiple advanced societies, their stories blending into one legendary cataclysm. What's undeniable is how Doggerland forces us to rethink prehistory. Its ruins, now buried under fishing nets and shipping lanes, remind us that civilization's roots run deeper and lie wetter than we ever imagined. Whether it inspired Atlantis or simply mirrors its fate, this drowned world proves one thing: the sea doesn't just hide lost continents, it guards humanity's forgotten chapters. Plato never mentioned glowing crystals or flying ships in his dialogues, so how did Atlantis become synonymous with futuristic technology? The answer lies in a tangled web of ancient myth, modern mysticism, and a dash of creative reinterpretation. Take the famous energy crystals often linked to Atlantis. This idea didn't come from Plato but from 20th century psychic Edgar Cayce, who claimed Atlanteans harnessed giant fire stones to power their cities and even fuel aircraft. His visions, part prophecy, part past life regression, described a society so advanced they could manipulate Earth's magnetic fields. Never mind that Cayce also predicted Atlantis would rise in 1868. His vivid imagery stuck, merging with New Age beliefs about lost ancient wisdom. But could there be a grain of truth buried beneath the fantasy? Some scholars point to Plato's mention of orichalcum, a mysterious metal gleaming like fire. While most historians interpret this as an alloy, perhaps brass or bronze, others speculate it was a high-tech conductive material, even comparing it to modern superconductors. Then there's the eerily precise description of Atlantis's capital, with its concentric canals and advanced irrigation. Could these details hint at real hydraulic engineering, exaggerated over centuries? The Minoans, often tied to Atlantis theories, did build multi-story palaces with sophisticated plumbing, an innovation that might have seemed miraculous to later civilizations. Pop culture turbocharged these speculations. Jules Verne's 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea depicted Atlantis as a sunken marvel of machinery, while films like Atlantis, The Lost Empire reinvented it as a steampunk utopia with laser weapons and levitating stones. Even Nikola Tesla supposedly believed Atlanteans had wireless energy, inspiring his own experiments. The line between archaeology and imagination blurred further when divers near Bimini claimed to find energy vortices, or when satellite images of the Sahara's Richet structure were hailed as proof of ancient power grids. Critics, of course, dismiss it all as pseudoscience. They argue that projecting modern tech onto the past ignores the context of ancient texts. Plato's Atlantis was a moral fable, not a blueprint for a Bronze Age megacity. And yet, the persistence of these theories reveals something primal. Whether it's Cayce's crystals or TikTok conspiracies about anti-gravity devices, we're drawn to the idea that some forgotten civilization cracked secrets we're still struggling to unlock. Maybe Atlantis's greatest technological marvel wasn't its machines, but its ability to keep us searching, centuries after the waves closed over it. The story of a great flood washing away a civilization isn't unique to Atlantis, it echoes across cultures, carved into the oldest myths of humanity like a shared nightmare. Take the Epic of Gilgamesh, inscribed on Mesopotamian clay tablets over 4,000 years ago. In it, the gods grow weary of humanity's noise and send a deluge to wipe them out, sparing only one righteous man, Utnapishtim, who builds an ark to save his family and animals. Sound familiar? Centuries later, the Hebrew Bible would tell nearly the same story with Noah, complete with divine wrath, a massive boat, and a rainbow promise. But the parallels don't stop there. The ancient Greeks had Deucalion's flood, the Maya spoke of the rain god Huracan drowning the world, and even the indigenous Kayich people of Guatemala preserved a tale of wooden figures being erased by a watery judgment. Why do these stories, separated by oceans and millennia, sound so eerily alike? One compelling theory connects these myths to real geological trauma. Around 12,000 years ago, as the last ice age collapsed, melting glaciers triggered rising seas and catastrophic flooding events like the Black Sea Deluge or the Storiga Slide tsunami. For early humans, these disasters would have felt apocalyptic, rewriting coastlines and drowning entire territories overnight. Imagine a tribe watching their hunting grounds vanish beneath the waves, or a village erased by a wall of water with no scientific explanation. The only way to make sense of it, the gods must be angry. Over generations, oral histories would compress time, blend details, and attach moral lessons, corruption punished, wisdom lost, a fresh start for the worthy. Plato's Atlantis fits snugly into this pattern, a society too proud, too greedy, struck down by Poseidon's wrath. But there's another layer here, the theme of lost knowledge. In many flood myths, the survivors carry fragments of their old world forward. Noah preserves animal species, Utnapishtim gains immortality, and in the Aztec legend of Coxcox, books float on the water to save human wisdom. Plato, too, hints at this when he describes Egyptian priests safeguarding records of Atlantis's downfall. Could these stories reflect a dim memory of pre-flood civilizations, not just drowned villages, but advanced cultures whose technologies or beliefs were partially salvaged? Archaeologists have found submerged settlements like Dwarka off India's coast, or the Yonaguni Monument near Japan, structures that hint at sophisticated builders before recorded history. While none match Atlantis's grandeur, they prove that the sea has swallowed more than we once believed, yet the differences between these myths are just as telling. Atlantis's destruction isn't framed as a clean slate for humanity, like Noah's Ark, but as a targeted strike against one corrupt empire. Gilgamesh's flood stems from divine annoyance, while Plato's is a moral reckoning. And unlike most flood stories, Atlantis isn't about survival, it's about utter annihilation, leaving no survivors to pass on its legacy. This uniqueness suggests Plato might have blended older flood narratives with something else, a real historical collapse like the Minoans or Tartessos, amplified into legend. The most haunting question isn't whether Atlantis was real, but why its story, and so many like it, resonate so deeply. Maybe these myths are more than just ancient disaster reports. They're mirrors reflecting our deepest fears, that prosperity is fragile, that nature can reclaim everything in an instant, and that someday our own cities might become someone else's legend. Every culture that tells a flood story is really telling the same warning: civilizations rise, but the water always wins, and when we search for Atlantis, we're not just hunting ruins. We're trying to remember what we've already forgotten. The island of Thura didn't just erupt, it exploded with a force that reshaped the ancient world. Around 1600 BCE, this volcanic powerhouse, now the crescent-shaped remains of Santorini, unleashed an eruption 4 times more powerful than Krakatoa. Towering columns of ash punched 30 kilometers into the sky, while pyroclastic flows raced across the sea at speeds topping 200 kilometers per hour. Tsunamis surged outward, some waves reaching 40 meters high, smashing into coastal cities across the Mediterranean. The devastation was so immense, it left a layer of ash as far as Greenland visible in ice cores dated to that exact era. And here's where the Atlantis connection heats up. This catastrophe aligns shockingly well with Plato's descriptions of earthquakes, floods, and a civilization vanishing overnight. But timing is everything. Plato places Atlantis's collapse around 900 years before Solon, roughly 1100 years ago. Thura's eruption happened far more recently, just 3.5 millennia back. So how do we bridge this gap? Some scholars argue Plato's timeline was distorted through centuries of retelling. Egyptian priests passing the story to Solon might have misrecorded dates or conflated multiple disasters. Others suggest Thura's eruption wasn't the sole inspiration, but the final act in a series of cataclysms that included earlier volcanic events or rising sea levels. The Minoan civilization, thriving on nearby Crete, was already reeling from earthquakes before Thura finished the job. Their sophisticated palaces, with advanced plumbing and vivid frescoes, collapsed into rubble, echoes of Plato's golden temples reduced to ruins. The geological evidence is undeniable. Core samples from the Mediterranean seafloor show thick layers of volcanic ash, matching Thura's chemical signature. spread across hundreds of kilometers. On Crete, archaeologists found pumice chunks embedded in building walls, hurled there by the tsunami. Even more telling, the Minoan settlement of Akrotiri, buried under meters of ash on Thura itself, reveals a city frozen in time. Its streets, lined with multi-story buildings and intricate drainage systems, mirror Plato's descriptions of Atlantis's orderly design. But here's the catch: Akrotiri was a bustling port, not an imperial capital. Could its destruction have merged with older legends of drowned lands, morphing into the grander tale of Atlantis? Beyond Thura, other seismic events fit the puzzle. The Storiga slide off Norway, triggering tsunamis that swamped Doggerland, or the massive quakes that reshaped the Azores' volcanic landscape, each could have contributed shards of truth to the myth. Plato's Atlantis might be a collage of disasters, stitched together by time and imagination. The real question isn't just whether a single eruption sank a continent, but why these cataclysms resonate so deeply in our collective memory. Whether it's Thura's fire or Doggerland's waves, the message is the same: civilizations rise, but the Earth always has the final word. Edgar Cayce never set foot on a sunken continent, never held an ancient artifact, yet he described Atlantis with startling detail, all while lying in a trance. Known as the Sleeping Prophet, Cayce gave over 700 psychic readings between 1910 and 1945, many recounting past lives in a technologically advanced Atlantis. His visions placed the lost civilization near the modern-day Bahamas, specifically predicting that ruins would emerge near Bimini in 1968. That same year, pilots spotted the infamous Bimini road underwater, igniting a frenzy of speculation, but Cayce's descriptions went far deeper than geography. He spoke of colossal crystal power sources called firestones that Atlanteans used to energize their cities, and even levitate aircraft technology so advanced it feels ripped from science fiction. Skeptics dismiss Cayce's claims as imaginative fabrications, pointing to his mixed track record. While he accurately predicted the Great Depression and World War II, he also foresaw Atlantis rising in 1869 and a shift in Earth's poles that never materialized. Psychologists argue his readings tapped into collective myths rather than hidden truths, blending Plato's account with early 20th century fascination with radio waves and crystals. Yet Cayce's influence persists. Modern Atlantologists still reference his visions when exploring underwater anomalies near Andros Island or the Gulf of Mexico. His description of Atlantean refugees fleeing to Egypt and the Yucatan even fueled theories linking pyramids across continents, despite zero archaeological evidence. What's undeniable is how Cayce reshaped Atlantis's image in pop culture. Before him, Plato's Atlantis was a moral fable. After Cayce, it became a new age beacon of lost wisdom and high technology. Documentaries, novels, and even video games now depict Atlantis through his lens, a utopia destroyed by misused psychic energy, its survivors seeding ancient mysteries worldwide. Whether Cayce channeled real history or simply reflected humanity's hunger for cosmic secrets, one thing's clear: his visions ensured Atlantis would never just be a drowned city. It became a mirror for our own ambitions, fears, and the timeless question: could we too rise so high only to fall so far? From the vastness of space to the ocean's deepest trenches, technology has become the modern-day explorer's compass in the hunt for Atlantis. Satellites orbiting Earth now capture high-resolution images of underwater formations with startling clarity, revealing patterns that defy simple geological explanation. Take the so-called Bimini Wall off the coast of the Bahamas, a 600-meter stretch of perfectly aligned limestone blocks that, when viewed from above, looks eerily like a submerged road or harbor. NASA Landsat satellites have mapped the area extensively, their sensors detecting variations in seafloor topography that hint at structures too geometrically precise to be random. But here's where science and speculation collide. While the agency's data confirms the existence of these formations, it stops short of calling them man-made. The official explanation: bedrock fracturing, a natural process where tidal forces split limestone into straight-edged segments, yet independent researchers point to the block's consistent height and right angles, arguing nature rarely creates such symmetry. The intrigue deepens when you shift focus to the Cuban underwater city. First detected in 2001 by a Canadian exploration team, sonar scans near Cuba's western tip revealed a series of pyramidal and circular structures at depths exceeding 700 meters far below where any known human civilization could have built. NASA advanced oceanographic satellites, equipped with bathymetric radar, later captured the site in stunning detail. The images show what appear to be terraced steps, smooth-walled platforms, and even something resembling an urban grid. Mainstream archaeologists dismiss it as a quirk of volcanic geology, noting the formations lack artifacts or tool marks, but alternative theorists counter that rising sea levels since the last ice age could have submerged a coastal metropolis, leaving only its stone bones intact. NASA's role in this debate is paradoxical. On one hand, their technology fuels Atlantis theories by uncovering anomalies that spark global curiosity. On the other, their scientists often debunk the very discoveries their instruments enable. When satellite imagery revealed a massive, grid-like pattern off the coast of West Africa in 2012, NASA quickly attributed it to a phenomenon called ship tracks, sediment disturbances caused by deep-sea fishing trawlers. Similarly, the agency's study of the Richat structure in the Sahara, while confirming its natural origins, couldn't stop the flood of speculation linking its concentric rings to Plato's descriptions. The most tantalizing clues come from NASA, a partnership with oceanographic institutions. Satellite altimetry data has mapped the seafloor's gravitational variations, exposing submerged mountain ranges and plateaus that once stood above water, potential candidates for Atlantis's lost landmass. One such formation, the horseshoe seamounts near the Azores, matches Plato's account of an island, larger than Libya and Asia combined, before it sank. Yet despite these tantalizing hints, NASA maintains a cautious stance. Their mandate is scientific discovery, not myth-chasing, and without definitive proof of carved inscriptions, tools, or human remains, every underwater anomaly remains just that, an anomaly. What's undeniable is how these high-tech tools have transformed the search. Where once explorers relied on ancient texts and intuition, we now have eyes that can peer through thousands of meters of seawater, measure minute gravitational shifts, and reconstruct landscapes swallowed by time. Whether NASA data eventually leads us to Atlantis or simply rewrites our understanding of Earth's submerged past, one thing's clear: the ocean's secrets are no longer safe from our gaze. And with each new scan, each pixelated glimpse of the unknown, the line between legend and history grows ever thinner. Plato's dialogues weren't just philosophy, they were mirrors held up to society, reflecting its flaws and aspirations. In Atlantis, it might be the most dazzling of these reflections. Many scholars argue that Plato never intended Atlantis to be taken literally. Instead, it was a brilliant allegory, a cautionary tale about the dangers of hubris and the fragility of even the mightiest empires. Think about it. In Critias, Atlantis is described as a utopia turned dystopia, a society that began with divine favor but crumbled under the weight of its own greed and ambition. This arc echoes Plato's warnings about Athens, his own homeland, which had suffered a humiliating defeat by Sparta decades earlier. The parallels are striking. Like Atlantis, Athens was a naval superpower, wealthy and advanced until overreach in the Peloponnesian War led to its downfall. Was Plato using Atlantis to critique Athenian imperialism, whispering to his fellow citizens, "This could be you"? But the allegory runs deeper. Atlantis isn't just a critique of Athens, it's a meditation on the ideal society and how even perfection can rot from within. In Plato's Republic, he outlines his vision of a just city ruled by philosopher kings. Atlantis at its peak mirrors this ideal, orderly, prosperous, governed by wise rulers descended from Poseidon. Yet unlike the Republic's static utopia, Atlantis evolves and devolves, its people grow corrupt, its leaders arrogant, until the gods intervene with divine punishment. This twist suggests Plato wasn't just dreaming of utopia, he was warning that no society, however perfect, is immune to human weakness. The story's moral is clear: civilization is a fragile thing, always one generation away from collapse. Critics of the historical Atlantis theory pounce on these literary cues. Why would Plato, a philosopher obsessed with ethics, suddenly switch gears to record ancient history? His other works are packed with parables: the cave, the ring of Gyges, none of which we take literally. Even the dialogue format itself leans into ambiguity. Timaeus and Critias are conversations, not textbooks, with characters debating ideas rather than stating facts. And let's not forget Plato's flair for drama. Describing Atlantis's destruction, he writes of earthquakes and floods so vivid, they feel like scenes from a tragedy. Could this be storytelling, not reportage? Yet here's the twist: Plato insists his tale is true. He roots it in Solon's travels and Egyptian records, framing it as a forgotten history. This tension between allegory and alleged fact has kept the debate alive for centuries. Some scholars propose a middle path. Maybe Atlantis was inspired by real disasters, like Thura's eruption or the flooding of Doggerland, which Plato then reshaped into a moral fable. After all, the best allegories often spring from kernels of truth. Whether pure fiction or embellished memory, Atlantis endures because it taps into our deepest fears, not just of drowning, but of being forgotten. And that's a tide no civilization can outrun. Among the most tantalizing clues in the search for Atlantis aren't sunken ruins or ancient maps, they're cryptic symbols carved into clay tablets and stone, languages so old that no living person understands them. Take Linear A, the script of the Minoan civilization that thrived on Crete over 3,500 years ago. Archaeologists have uncovered thousands of these inscriptions, on pottery, religious offerings, even palace walls, yet despite a century of effort, the words remain stubbornly locked away. What makes this undeciphered script so intriguing to Atlantis hunters? Linear A predates its successor, Linear B, which was cracked in the 1950s and revealed mundane palace inventories. But Linear A's untamed symbols hint at something richer, perhaps sacred texts, royal decrees, or even records of the catastrophic Thura eruption that may have inspired Plato's tale. Without the key to decode them, we're left wondering, could these markings hold first-hand accounts of a civilization watching its world drown? Then there's the Vinca symbols, discovered along the Danube River in modern-day Serbia. Dating back over 7,000 years, far older than Mesopotamian cuneiform or Egyptian hieroglyphs, these enigmatic etchings on pottery and figurines show eerie consistency across hundreds of miles. Some researchers argue they represent the earliest known writing system, while others dismiss them as ritual markings or property labels. But for Atlantis theorists, the Vinca symbols spark a provocative question: what if this was the script of a lost European culture, advanced enough to trade with or even colonize the Mediterranean? The symbol's geometric precision, crosses, zigzags, and branching lines resemble no known language, leaving room for wild speculation. Could they encode myths of a forgotten flood? A map to a drowned homeland without context, they're a Rorschach test for the imagination. Language barriers don't just obscure history, they rewrite it. Consider the Phaistos disc, a clay tablet unearthed on Crete in 1908, stamped with spiraling symbols unlike any other script in the ancient world. Some scholars suggest it's a prayer or calendar, others, a diplomatic message or even a hoax. But for those convinced Atlantis was real, the disc's isolation, no other examples exist, fuels theories of a cultural outlier, a lone survivor of a sunken world. The same pattern repeats with the Rongorongo glyphs of Easter Island, the Indus Valley script of Pakistan, or the Quipu knots of the Andes. Each undeciphered system becomes a blank canvas for projecting Atlantis fantasies, precisely because their silence invites invention. This isn't just about linguistics, it's about how gaps in knowledge become playgrounds for myth. When archaeologists uncovered the Tartessian script in southern Spain, a writing system used around the same time as Plato's Athens, its few deciphered words revealed nothing about Atlantis. But the 90% still unreadable, that void birth theories linking Tartessos to Atlantean refugees, their wisdom encoded in symbols we can't yet parse. Even the Maya glyphs, now largely decoded, were once fodder for Atlantis claims, until translations revealed them as records of kings and wars, not sunken continents. The allure of these silent scripts lies in their duality. They're both evidence and enigma, tantalizing us with the possibility of hidden knowledge while resisting easy answers. Every undeciphered line could, in theory, hold the missing piece of the Atlantis puzzle, or just another grocery list. Until we crack them, they'll remain the ultimate Rorschach test, reflecting back our longing for a world where history's greatest secrets are still waiting, inked in clay, to be unearthed. The hunt for Atlantis isn't just confined to dusty scrolls or academic debates, it's playing out right now in the crushing depths of our oceans, where high-tech expeditions are scouring the seafloor for clues. Take James Cameron's deep-sea dives off the coast of Cuba, where the filmmaker and explorer partnered with marine archaeologists to investigate those enigmatic sonar scans of underwater structures. Armed with submersibles capable of withstanding pressures that would crush a nuclear submarine, Cameron's team captured stunning footage of giant stone blocks arranged in geometric patterns. But here's the catch: while the formations look man-made, geologists point to the area's turbulent tectonic history, arguing that earthquakes could have fractured the seabed into uncannily symmetrical shapes. That's the maddening thing about underwater archaeology. The line between nature's artistry and human handiwork is frustratingly thin. Private ventures have jumped into the fray too, like OceanX's missions near the Azores, funded by billionaire investors convinced Atlantis lies along the mid-Atlantic ridge. Their state-of-the-art ROVs, remotely operated vehicles, have mapped vast underwater plateaus, uncovering strange pillars and what some claim are carved channels. Yet for every tantalizing discovery, there's a sobering reality check. In 2018, a team from the University of Athens announced they'd found a submerged city near Crete, only to backtrack months later, admitting the ruins were natural rock formations. It's a pattern that repeats: excitement, then skepticism, then renewed determination. The challenges are monumental. At depths exceeding 1,000 meters, visibility drops to near zero, and currents can shift equipment off course in seconds. Even when anomalies are found, retrieving artifacts is a logistical nightmare. Saltwater corrodes metals, sediments bury structures, and the sheer cost of deep-sea exploration, up to $100,000 per day, means most searches are brief and narrowly focused. Compare that to land archaeology, where a trowel and brush can uncover centuries of history in an afternoon. But technology is tipping the scales. Autonomous drones like the Hydrosweep now map the ocean floor with centimeter precision, while AI analyzes sonar data for patterns invisible to the human eye. In 2021, a team from the Schmidt Ocean Institute used machine learning to identify a submerged volcanic crater near Malta, its rim eerily echoing Plato's rings of water and land. Still, the biggest hurdle isn't finding strange shapes underwater, it's proving they're human creations. Without inscriptions, tools, or carbon-datable organic material, every discovery remains in limbo. What keeps these expeditions going isn't just evidence, it's the irresistible possibility that this time they'll strike gold, or in Atlantis's case, orichalcum. Atlantis isn't just a sunken city, it's a cultural superpower. its influence rippling through books, films, and even fringe science with the force of a tidal wave. Jules Verne kicked off the modern obsession in 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, sending Captain Nemo's Nautilus gliding past the ruins of Atlantis, where shattered columns and statues lay frozen in the deep. Verne's vision was more than adventure, it was a template, turning Atlantis into a symbol of lost grandeur and technological wonder. Fast forward to the 20th century, and pulp magazines like Weird Tales spun Atlantis into everything from a cradle of ancient aliens to a battleground for sword-swinging heroes. But the real turning point came with Disney's 2001 animated film Atlantis, The Lost Empire, which blended steampunk aesthetics with Plato's Rings of Water design, introducing a generation to the idea of Atlantis as a high-tech utopia undone by its own hubris. The myth's grip on Hollywood is undeniable. Blockbusters like Aquaman reimagined Atlantis as a shimmering underwater kingdom, its trident-wielding rulers guarding secrets of advanced energy and warfare. Even James Cameron's Avatar borrowed Atlantis's DNA. Pandora's tribal Na'vi, facing colonial destruction, mirrors Plato's cautionary tale. But why does this story resonate so deeply? At its core, Atlantis is a blank canvas. It can be a warning, like in Watchmen, where the doomed city symbolizes nuclear apocalypse, or a beacon of hope, as in Stargate, where its people flee to the stars. The flexibility of the myth lets filmmakers and writers project their own fears and fantasies onto it, whether that's climate anxiety, technological dread, or the allure of hidden knowledge. Pseudoscience has latched onto Atlantis with equal fervor. Edgar Case's psychic visions of crystal-powered cities spawned a new age industry, with modern energy healers claiming to channel Atlantean wisdom. Then there's the wilder fringe theories linking Atlantis to extraterrestrials, ancient astronauts, or even secret Nazi bases. The History Channel's Ancient Aliens routinely trots out Atlantis as proof of alien visitation, pointing to Plato's descriptions of advanced engineering as evidence of otherworldly intervention. Never mind that Plato never mentioned spaceships. The gaps in his account become fuel for speculation. Even mainstream figures like Nikola Tesla supposedly believed Atlanteans harnessed wireless energy, inspiring his experiments with electricity. The irony, the more science debunks these claims, the more Atlantis morphs to fit new conspiracy theories, from hollow earth bunkers to suppressed government files. Literature, though, is where Atlantis finds its most nuanced expressions. Marion Zimmer Bradley's The Fall of Atlantis reimagines it as a matriarchal society torn apart by betrayal, while Samuel Delany's Atlantis, Model 1924, uses the myth to explore race and memory in America. Even science giants like Arthur C. Clarke couldn't resist his The Ghost from the Grand Banks pits engineers against the ocean to raise Atlantis, a metaphor for humanity's arrogance. The sheer variety of interpretations reveals something profound. Atlantis isn't just a place, it's a mirror. Every era sees its own reflection in the legend, whether that's Victorian fears of degeneration, Cold War paranoia, or today's anxieties about rising seas and crumbling empires. What's striking is how little Plato's original account actually matters in these retellings. His Atlantis was a moral fable, but pop culture stripped away the lesson, keeping only the spectacle. The sunken city becomes a MacGuffin, a treasure to be looted or a doom to be escaped, yet this distortion might be the myth's greatest strength. By shedding its specifics, Atlantis becomes universal, a shared story we can remake endlessly, projecting our hopes and fears onto its drowned halls. Whether it's a cautionary tale, a sci-fi playground, or a pseudoscientific holy grail, one thing's clear: Atlantis will never stay buried. As long as we dream of lost worlds and forgotten golden ages, it will keep resurfacing, adapting, and haunting us anew. What if our entire understanding of human history is missing a crucial chapter, one that rewrites when civilization truly began? Mainstream archaeology pins the dawn of complex societies to around 6,000 years ago, with Mesopotamia and the Nile Valley as its cradle. But a growing chorus of researchers insists we're overlooking something monumental: evidence that advanced cultures thrived millennia earlier, only to be erased by catastrophe. Enter the Younger Dryas impact hypothesis, a radical theory that's turning conventional timelines upside down. Roughly 12,800 years ago, Earth was emerging from the Ice Age when temperatures abruptly plummeted again for a 1,000-year freeze known as the Younger Dryas. Traditional science blames shifting ocean currents, but a team of geologists and astronomers propose something far more dramatic: a comet, their evidence. Microscopic diamond and platinum spikes in sediment layers across 4 continents, along with charred remains of massive wildfires. These clues suggest a fragmented comet struck North America, triggering earthquakes, tsunamis, and an atmospheric dust cloud that blocked the sun for generations. Now here's where Atlantis enters the picture. Plato's timeline placing its destruction around 11,600 years ago aligns almost perfectly with this catastrophe. Proponents argue the Younger Dryas event could have devastated coastal civilizations worldwide, leaving scant traces for modern archaeologists to find. Graham Hancock, a vocal advocate of this idea, points to submerged ruins like Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, a megalithic site dating back 12,000 years, its T-shaped pillars carved with intricate animal reliefs. How could hunter-gatherers, as textbooks claim, achieve such precision? Hancock's answer: they weren't primitive at all, survivors of a pre-existing advanced culture. Perhaps even Atlantis itself may have passed down their knowledge to nascent societies, jump-starting agriculture and monument building earlier than we thought. Skeptics, of course, dismiss this as fringe fantasy. They argue the Younger Dryas' impact lacks definitive proof, no crater has been found, and the nanodiamonds could result from natural wildfires. As for Göbekli Tepe, mainstream archaeologists propose it was a communal project, built slowly over generations by nomadic groups, the real sticking point. Absence of cities: if Atlantis or its peers existed, where are their roads, tools, or trash heaps? Younger Dryas theorists counter that rising seas post-Ice Age submerged coastal settlements, while glaciers pulverized inland ones. They point to underwater structures like Japan's Yonaguni Monument, a terraced formation some believe is man-made, though geologists attribute it to sandstone erosion. The debate hinges on how we define advanced. Atlantis, as Plato describes it, had metallurgy, agriculture, and monumental architecture, traits absent in the archaeological record before 5000 BCE. But what if advanced meant something different? Indigenous oral histories worldwide speak of lost wisdom, star lore, herbal medicine, even acoustic engineering that doesn't leave physical traces. The Dogon people of Mali, for instance, knew of Sirius B, a star invisible to the naked eye, centuries before telescopes confirmed it. Could such knowledge be remnants of an Atlantean-era culture? Ultimately, the Younger Dryas hypothesis forces us to question not just when civilization began, but how it endures. Cataclysms like impacts or floods don't just destroy, they scatter. Survivors become refugees, carrying fragments of their world into new lands. Whether Atlantis was a literal empire or a metaphor for this forgotten epoch, its story taps into a deeper truth: humanity's past is far more fluid and far more mysterious than we've dared to imagine. And with each discovery, from Carolina Bay's enigmatic depressions to Antarctica's hidden rivers, the line between myth and prehistory blurs a little more. The hunt for Atlantis has always been fertile ground for hoaxes, some laughably crude, others so elaborate they fooled experts for decades. Take the infamous crystal skulls craze of the 19th century. These intricately carved quartz artifacts, allegedly looted from lost Mesoamerican cities, were touted as Atlantean relics by charismatic hucksters like Eugene Boban. Museums scrambled to acquire them, only to later discover the skulls were likely crafted in Germany using 19th-century rotary tools. Yet the myth persisted, even inspiring Hollywood blockbusters. The skull's supposed psychic powers and links to Atlantis became gospel in fringe circles, proving how easily a slick backstory can override scientific scrutiny. Then there's Ignatius Donnelly, the Minnesota congressman turned amateur Atlantologist whose 1882 book Atlantis, The Antediluvian World, became the blueprint for modern pseudo-history. Donnelly cherry-picked linguistic similarities and architectural parallels from Aztec pyramids to Egyptian hieroglyphs to argue Atlantis was the mother culture of all civilizations. His grand theory, that Atlantean refugees seeded knowledge across the globe after their homeland sank, never mind that his evidence included mistranslated texts and dubious coin collections passed off as ancient. Donnelly's charisma and faux academic tone lent his claims credibility, embedding them in pop culture so deeply that echoes still surface in documentaries today. Misinformation thrives in Atlantis studies because the stakes feel cosmic, when self-proclaimed researcher Paul Schliemann, grandson of Troy's discoverer, claimed in 1912 to possess an Atlantean artifact inscribed with Phoenician script, newspapers breathlessly reported it. Only later did scholars notice the ancient symbols matched a 19th-century grammar book, yet the hoax worked because people wanted it to be true. The same psychological trap snared the Bimini Road discoverers, who ignored geologists' Beecroft explanations to chase cases' prophecies. Confirmation bias isn't just a pitfall, it's the engine of Atlantean lore. Modern hoaxes have gone digital. In 2017, a viral Google Earth image supposedly showed a giant underwater pyramid off the Azores. Bloggers declared it Atlantis's capital, until oceanographers revealed it was a glitch in sonar data stitching. Even the Cuban underwater city hype of the early 2000s, fueled by ambiguous sonar scans, collapsed when higher resolution imaging showed natural formations. Yet each debunked claim leaves residue, mutating into forums and YouTube videos where skepticism drowns in a sea of what-ifs. The damage isn't just to credibility, it's to real archaeology. Every hour spent chasing crystal skulls is an hour not spent studying actual underwater ruins like Pavloptri or Dwarka. The irony, Plato's original warning about truth corrupted by time feels prophetic. In our age of deepfakes and AI, the line between artifact and artifice keeps blurring. Maybe Atlantis's greatest lesson isn't where to look, but how, with curiosity, yes, but also the grit to question even the most seductive stories. Because the ocean isn't the only thing that hides things, so do our own hopes. Long before Plato penned the story of Atlantis, indigenous cultures worldwide were passing down eerily similar tales, not of a single lost continent, but of entire worlds consumed by water. The Hopi people of the American Southwest speak of a great flood that destroyed the Third World, sparing only those who heeded the warnings and climbed to safety inside hollow reeds. Their legends describe a society much like Atlantis, powerful but corrupt, whose arrogance invited the gods' punishment. Meanwhile, in Australia, Aboriginal Dreamtime stories tell of a time when the coastline stretched far beyond its current bounds, until rising seas swallowed sacred lands, forcing tribes to retreat inward. These aren't isolated myths. From the Haida of the Pacific Northwest to the Maori of New Zealand, hundreds of oral traditions echo the same haunting refrain: water rises and civilizations fall. What makes these stories so compelling is their specificity. The Yuchai tribe of Oklahoma recounts how their ancestors fled an island homeland in the Atlantic after volcanic fires darkened the sky, a detail that mirrors both Plato's account and modern evidence of the thorough eruption. In the Amazon, the Disana people describe a serpent-shaped causeway linking their ancestors to a now submerged city, its ruins said to glow under certain moonlight. Even the Welsh legend of Cantre'r Gwaelod, a fertile kingdom lost to the sea when a well was left uncovered, carries shades of Atlantis's moral warning. These parallels raise a provocative question: Are these merely universal flood metaphors, or could they be fractured memories of real events? Geology offers tantalizing clues. During the last ice age, sea levels were over 100 meters lower, exposing vast coastal plains that are now underwater. When glaciers melted, the oceans rose at staggering rates, sometimes several meters per century. For people living along those vanishing shores, the trauma would have been generational. Imagine watching your fishing grounds disappear, your sacred mounds submerged, your stories compressed into survival lessons. Oral histories often encode such catastrophes in symbolic language. The Haida's tale of Raven releasing the tides might chronicle a post-glacial tsunami, just as the Tamil story of Kumari Kandam, a lost continent south of India, could reflect submerged settlements now being uncovered off India's coast. But here's where the debate ignites. Mainstream scholars argue these stories are allegories, not archives teaching tools about humility and adaptation. Yet a growing wave of researchers, like linguist Elizabeth Barber, points to the stunning accuracy of oral traditions. The Klamath people's legend of Mount Mazama's eruption, for example, precisely matches geological evidence from 7,700 years ago. Similarly, Aboriginal stories pinpointing now drowned freshwater springs have led archaeologists to discover submerged caves off Australia's coast. If these narratives can preserve millennia-old ecological details, why not historical ones? Perhaps the most poignant thread connecting these tales is their emotional truth. Whether describing Atlantis or Kumari Kandam, they speak to humanity's shared vulnerability, the understanding that no civilization, no matter how grand, is permanent. The Hopi prophecy that the Fourth World will end in fire mirrors Plato's warning about cyclical destruction. These stories aren't just about what was lost. They're about what we might still lose, whispered across generations like a ripple in the water, and in that sense, Atlantis isn't just one myth among many, it's part of a global chorus, singing the same urgent song from the depths of time. The search for Atlantis is entering its most thrilling chapter yet, not because we found it, but because the tools to finally uncover the truth are now within our grasp. Picture this: autonomous deep-sea drones, equipped with artificial intelligence, gliding through the midnight zones of the ocean, their sensors mapping every crevice of the seafloor with laser precision. These aren't the clunky submersibles of the past. Modern robots like the Orpheus, developed by NASA and WOI, can plunge to depths of 6,000 meters, their AI brains instantly distinguishing between a natural rock formation and a potential ruined wall. Machine learning algorithms trained on thousands of ancient architectural patterns could flag anomalies invisible to human eyes, a faint geometric outline in the sediment, or a chemical signature suggestive of man-made metals. Imagine an AI cross-referencing Plato's descriptions with real-time sonar data, pinpointing locations where the topography matches his rings of water and land. The sheer scale of this technological leap is staggering. What once took decades of guesswork and luck could soon be methodical, systematic, a forensic sweep of the ocean's secrets. But with these advancements come thorny ethical dilemmas. Suppose we do find something, an intact structure, an artifact of orichalcum, or worse, human remains. Who has the right to recover them? The waters where Atlantis might lie off the Azores, near Cuba, or in the Mediterranean fall under international jurisdictions governed by UNESCO underwater cultural heritage laws. These rules are designed to prevent commercial exploitation of shipwrecks and ruins, but Atlantis blurs the lines. Is it archaeology or mythology? If a private company funds the discovery, do they own what's found? The backlash over Odyssey Marine Exploration's salvage of the Black Swan shipwreck, which sparked legal battles with Spain, hints at the chaos that could erupt over Atlantean relics. And what if the finds are more than just stone and metal? Plato wrote of Atlantis's advanced knowledge, unearthing even a fragment of lost technology, say, an alloy with properties we can't replicate, could trigger a geopolitical scramble akin to the space race, but underwater. Then there's the question of preservation. The ocean floor is a time capsule, its cold, low-oxygen environment ideal for conserving organic materials. Raise an artifact too quickly, and it could crumble like the Mary Rose's waterlogged timbers. Some scientists advocate for in situ study, leaving discoveries untouched until non-invasive tech evolves. Others worry that climate change and deep-sea mining are already destroying potential sites. The controversial scraping of polymetallic nodules from the seabed, for instance, might erase Atlantis before we even know it's there. The paradox is palpable. Our tools to find Atlantis are advancing just as the threats to its possible remains intensify, yet the most profound dilemma isn't legal or logistical, it's philosophical. If Atlantis is confirmed as real, what happens to its myth? For millennia, it's been a mirror reflecting our fears of collapse and dreams of utopia. Would cold, hard evidence enrich its legacy, or strip away the mystery that's kept it alive in our collective imagination? The answer might lie in how we choose to search. Perhaps the future of Atlantis research isn't just about discovery, but stewardship, treating the ocean not as a treasure chest to loot, but as the keeper of stories we're only beginning to understand. After all, some secrets aren't meant to be solved, they're meant to remind us how much we still have left to explore. After centuries of searching, the mystery of Atlantis remains as captivating as ever, not because we've found it, but because we haven't. The most compelling theories each offer a tantalizing piece of the puzzle. Plato's vivid description of a ringed city beyond the Pillars of Hercules finds eerie echoes in the concentric ridges of the Richat structure, while the volcanic annihilation of Thura mirrors his account of earthquakes and floods. The Azores' underwater pyramids and Bimini's geometric roads hint at lost engineering, and even Antarctica's icy cloak can't silence whispers of a forgotten civilization beneath. But here's the twist: Atlantis endures not just as a place, but as an idea, a mirror held up to humanity's deepest fears and fascinations. What makes this legend so stubbornly alive? It's the duality of the clues. Every potential discovery, whether the submerged ruins near Cuba or the Younger Dryas impact theory, exists in a limbo between science and speculation. The Richat could be natural erosion or the scars of a drowned capital. Thura's eruption might be the spark behind the myth, or just another chapter in Earth's violent history. Even the absence of evidence becomes its own kind of evidence, proof that the ocean, with its vast, uncharted depths, still holds secrets we can't yet fathom. Theories will keep evolving, but the heart of Atlantis's appeal lies in its ambiguity. It's a Rorschach test for the ages. For historians, it's a cautionary tale about hubris. For archaeologists, a challenge to rewrite the timeline of civilization. For dreamers, a lost world where technology and magic blurred. And for all of us, it's a reminder that history isn't just what's written, it's what's waiting to be uncovered. So where does that leave us? Maybe the real treasure isn't finding Atlantis, but the search itself. Every sonar scan, every dive into the abyss, every reinterpretation of Plato's text keeps the legend breathing. And who knows, the next breakthrough might be lurking in a dusty archive, a satellite image, or even your own backyard. Until then, the enigma lives on not just in books or films, but in the conversations it sparks. What's your favorite theory? Drop it in the comments and let's keep the mystery rippling. After all, the best legends never truly sink, they just wait for the tide to